Good evening and welcome to the October 19th Budget Committee meeting of Litchfield, New Hampshire. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My name is Kate Stevens. I'm the Vice Chair of the Budget Committee. Chair Sun is absent this evening for some personal reasons, so I will be chairing the meeting. Actually, do we need to?
No.
We don't need to vote on that? Okay. So let's start with the review and any additions to the agenda. Did anyone have anything to add? No? Okay. With that, I can open it for the first public input. Seeing no one in the audience tonight, I will close that public input and move on to correspondence. Which I will pull here. Okay, so since our last meeting, we had on October 6th, Gail Barringer of 398 Charles Bancroft Highway commented in support of increasing planning staff hours to make timely updates to the impact fee schedule and potentially apply for municipal grants. October 8th, Recording Secretary Matt Sullivan shared the October 5th draft meeting minutes. October 11th, Chair John David Sun shared the October 19th Budget Committee agenda. Also on October 11th, bookkeeper Heather Snyman forwarded the third quarter comparison charts, and October 12th, Town Administrator Kim Kleiner shared the Litchfield Impact Fee Update Study of 2023. And I believe, and we had at, on October 19th, Chair Sun shared a memo from Ms. Kleiner with reviewing some updates to the town budget that we will go over tonight. Review and acceptance of minutes for the October 5th meeting. Did anybody have any issues with that? With those minutes? No? Okay. Entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
You seconding?
Second. I gotta start writing this down. Motion by Mr. Hayes, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 8-0-0. Yeah, all right. Okay, on to town business. Tonight we will be going over the town budget and voting on certain budgets. Tonight we're supposed to be starting with police. Were there any updates to the order of that, or are we okay to go through as written on the agenda?
That's fine.
Okay.
I think we need to have an idea and understanding of where we stand on the tax impact before we can even move forward. Because if we are still way over, then we have to start looking for reductions where we can. So because if we go through this and then we're still over, well, let's have that conversation now before we start diving into the numbers, because if we're way over, it's gonna change how the conversations go.
Well, we're $20,000 under the tax.
Oh, we're
cap
under
right
now? We're back, yeah, well, there's still a lot of but that's without the
Would you like me to-
contracts. Yep, go ahead.
Sure. So, we are $20,458 under the tax cap prior to updating the town's health, which came in at 15.6% increase. The reason we have held off doing that is we are discussing with our consultant some plan changes, and we will be bringing forth some recommendations to the Board of Selectmen on Monday. So, as you may or may not know, we're in union negotiations currently. There is a plan within the current two plans that we offer that is expiring. So that is part of our negotiations with the union, is how to replace that plan. Looking at the cost of the increase for health, which is not only an increase to the town, but it's an increase to the employees, we really need to do our due diligence and see if there is something comparable, that may be of a cheaper cost. So that's what we've been doing. The consultant has made some recommendations. We're looking those over. So we didn't update that. That cost is approximately $108,000, without any plan changes, without any census
And
changes.
that's before the union raises that get negotiated and anything else.
Correct, because that contract, the contract that'll expire next June isn't, we haven't even TA'd any information on that yet. We're still in negotiations.
So did I hear it's, the health insurance is a 100K increase, so then technically if that went through, now we're 80 over?
Right.
Correct. And the dental's about 1,500,
Mhm.
so
But again, that's without any wage
4.7% increase.
And is the 20,000 that we were under, does that take into account that part-time police officer that had been removed?
Yes, it does. So on the front page of the budget, the summary tab, down below, the charts, we put a summary of changes. And so right there, yes, we recorded everything there so that you can see all the ins and the outs. Karen and I, spent a lot of time with the Department of Revenue the other day on the phone, going over changes to the 2023 revenues, which get updated before they set the tax rate. And because some of those revenues were higher, well, one small decrease, it changes the amount, the tax effort, which changes therefore the beginning tax for this year, which we use to calculate our tax cap. So I tried in the memo to explain step by step how we went through all those changes. But it did lessen the amount that we had as a tax cap from about 251,000 to about 247,000. But because of some of those increases in revenues that we saw, we made adjustments to the 2024 revenues to keep in trend. So the meals and rooms went up, and as has our interest income. So we changed those in the 2024 budget, which left us with the current amount under the cap before health and dental of 20,458.
Can you just refresh my memory before we get into it here on the tax cap, right? So last year, the town approved increasing the tax cap to 5%. Why are we still having a challenge with the tax cap?
Well, so inflation has a lot to do with it. The increases that you see to contractual obligations. So this year we got hit with a number. The audit service contract, the ambulance contract, the dispatch contract, the health and dental, the benefits. The contractual increases that you're seeing are much higher than 5%. And right there, that is going to eat up most of your tax cap. And that's why we're still struggling. You know, we wanted to bring forth a budget that had some very small, minor, service uptakes, like the planning staff, right? It's a need, it's a definite need, that's only going to increase in the future. But other than that, most of this is very level services. You know, there was no big increases in programs or anything of that sort. We did update, because the board had voted last Monday, on the recreation budget, which we noticed at your last meeting wasn't correct. The department had actually made some requests that hadn't gone to the board, so that was updated, as was the Natticook contract. And that was an increase. So, I mean, most of the increases are contractual in nature.
And it was last year's warrant articles too, approved by the voters that put a hit on the tax cap as well.
Right, the
Weekend
fire,
coverage
the
and-
weekend
yeah.
coverage, absolutely.
What I think is missed too, though, and one of the things I find troubling is that despite all this, we're slightly under. We've pulled things out of here that we traditionally used to carry in our budget. We used to carry 2 police troop cars every year, like 212. That's not in this budget, and we're still, if we factor in insurance increases and wage increases, at least a couple $100,000, where we have to do some shaving, and we still don't have everything in the budget that we used to.
So you're still planning to present warrants for the 3 cruisers, 198,000 or so?
Of course, at the board's approval, yes. You know, I think there was some discussion about trying to use, some of our unassigned fund balance. I think that Karen and I, and we were just talking about this today, that's gonna be a little bit more of a difficult conversation. Part of the information that we receive when we receive the tax rate from the New Hampshire DRA is what our balance is. And our fund balance right now currently sits at 8.74%. The town has a very clear policy that it can be no lower than 8. So, you know, as we see, and there was a memo and it was very late today, so you may not have gotten it, but there was some questions about what was left in the police and the fire salary lines. And there may be some money there because, in the police, because there's been some positions that have never been filled, although they're doing a great job now of filling those positions. You know, the question has to be, is it better to let that fall to fund balance and see where we are? But we're going to have to be very careful about what money from fund balance we use going forward.
Would there be a consideration to reduce the number of vehicles from, let's say, 3 to 1?
I think that would be up to the board, most certainly, but, you know, today, we took one completely offline. The maintenance, repair cost, we felt was too high. So for right now, it is completely out of service. That's one that I would definitely say needs to be replaced.
What's the nature of the repair? Engine, transmission?
No, it's oil pump and more engine related, and some other items. And it's that is one of the ones at the higher mileage.
I mean, if the engine is still good, just replace the oil pump would be the way to go. But if the oil pump has caused engine damage, then
yeah.
you'd replace the whole thing. But still, that's less costly than a cruiser,
Agreed.
a new cruiser, so.
Agreed.
What's the financial ramification taking the town policy out of play of going below 8%? What happens?
So
Bond rate increase?
you start to deal with cash flow problems.
Okay,
So, you know, the town is the collector.
right. So how much does
Even though we're not the creator of all taxation, we are the collector.
what's the percentage of the school that uses up that fund balance until voting day?
Interesting, you know, the way that the taxes are collected, there have definitely times, twice a year, that we may not have the cash on hand to make a school payment if we don't have that cushion to go to. It all depends on how taxes flow in, right? And what payments are due, but that it is dangerous, and there is a minimum set by the DRA. You want to be very careful about using that fund balance, and I think the town's policy is very sound. There are many towns now that have a policy that is excess of 12, just for that reason.
And the 8% is based on both the town and the school budget, or is it just the town budget?
And town.
Town and school?
Town, school, and county.
So we have to pay this, when the school needs their money to pay the teachers and whatever, we have to have that money on hand.
Yeah.
That's our safety net, and I'm never in favor of taking that.
No, and that's what I was trying to get to, Bob. is There's been a lot of comments over the years that I've been here that, well, you know what? The town gets this benefit that they get this slush fund. It's like, no, it's not a slush fund. It's there to actually pay the bills
Yeah, it's a safety.
for everybody. It's not, town versus school, which is a
No.
constant battle that we have around here.
So you don't wanna go below 8%. I'm sorry, what are we at right now?
8.7.
And how much dollars does that represent? 0.74?
2.518950 million.
Is all of it or just the 0.74?
That's what we have.
That,
The question is, what is the 0.74? That's 2 million?
uh,
No,
I think that, I wanna make sure we get
So-
that correct. Because I can see where we're gonna go if we don't get the correct number out.
0.74 is like 200
Yeah.
grand.
What?
It's like 200 grand.
so there's a
I'm still
number
trying
of
to figure it
things that impact that,
2
right?
million
So
sounds better.
it's based, to Mr. Taylor's point, it's based upon the total amount, the county, the school, and the town. And so it's the total, current year expenditures or appropriations that we're talking about. So if the town goes up none, and the school goes up 3 million, right, if there's a major, we've got to now increase that fund balance just to stay at the current level. So it really is a conversation that everyone has to have so that we can ensure that we're keeping that cushion there. When county wants their money,
You want it,
you don't have a choice. You better pay it.
but they'll charge you interest.
I say build on the fund balance, don't take it away. I mean, our job, I think, tonight was really to find, $80,000 in the budget to take away, just to be even. And that's not counting the proposed warrants for, the police cars or anything else, which to me is just, should be part of the budget. So in reality, if we go to one car, then we need to reduce it, somewhere at $140,000.
Or the reality is, we need to stop, maybe we can't do what we're doing, and we need a community-wide conversation of what do people expect? You can get your sticker shock and keep your services.
Yeah.
Or recognize that perhaps people can't afford it, and that means there have to be some changes.
But I think
But
we
that's a
can,
conversation that has to be had at some point.
I think we can keep services without buying new cruisers. Engines and transmissions, oil pumps, that's
We
just
also
all.
didn't buy cruisers last year.
Un-
Right, so
understood.
we need to balance that to some extent.
Right. But that
Because if we don't have
mean,
cruisers-
that doesn't mean jump on 3.
Right.
That means add 1.
Right.
It also means the conversation needs to be had about overall manpower need.
And the total number of cruisers we need. I know
Right.
you talked about that before.
I mean, the elephant in this budget is what we're gonna talk about right out of the gate here, and it's gonna be police, and it's gonna be overtime. It has to be. I mean, it's.
I was
I'm not-
very
I'm not,
impressed
like-
that was the first one, let's just go right in, let's do it.
Well, I mean, not to move it along, but.
It's not gonna be just overtime, and I talked about it last year, where it was so tight. You're gonna start having to look at personnel.
that might be the conversation here.
The reason the overtime's so high is because we're short so many officers.
I get it.
Like, if you look at the actual pay and the budget, we've spent, what, 40% of the wage budget? Because the officers aren't there, so it's, overtime is high, but it's because we're not spending the money on the wages, really. But it's still, what is it, like $700,000 underspent right now? So there's money there. Like,
Absolutely
Yeah.
correct. So, you know, we trended out, and this is a memo that you may not have yet. We trended it out, and there is going to most likely be some savings within the PD full-time officers' wages, and the healthcare, related healthcare.
and the retirement, because it all kind of comes together, right?
Right, all associated.
See, I didn't even see this. That's
And, but maybe we let that fall to fund balance, and then we see where we are, right? There's going to be some increased overtime in the last quarter because you have 4 holidays, you have some vacations, and we had the retirement of a sergeant, and that caused some reassignment of positions. So, you know, we need to see where that last quarter of overtime is. But most likely there will be savings. That's a little different than fire. Fire's coming in more true to budget. There were some savings after not having a chief for the first half of the year, but those savings were used to backfill of the full-time position at the fire station during the first half of the year. So that's coming out more true to budget than the police department.
is the chief's salary now accurate? Do we have a chief now?
The fire chief?
No, I'm sorry,
Police.
police chief.
We do not.
No, we have the interim still.
Okay.
So,
What time did we just say he's permanent? I mean, how long does interim go?
Can't be.
so with that, I think, are we
We're
ready
getting
to go into the police?
Yeah, so
budget?
See, good chairwoman, right? Let's go.
so
I think it's a good segue there.
what do you anticipate as far as savings from police in salaries? Salaries and benefits and all by year end? If you were to like,
If I had a magic ball or a crystal ball, you know, I definitely think that you're going to see, the overtime go up. I think it's gonna come more in, south of $80,000. So I would say it's probably going to be between wages and benefits. You may be see a savings of 150,000.
that's it?
That's one officer, not even.
Yeah,
I would say that's
overtime
Think
eats
more.
you up.
Well, I'm looking at,
One
the budget
officer,
report
less than one
from
officer.
September 25th. So that's 9 months
I
in.
feel like they have more vacation.
We've only spent 39.75% of the police budget, and there's $720,000 left over. Do you think it's only gonna be 150
Less
left
than
at the end of the year?
So our memo was as of last Friday.
Oh, I'm not looking at the memo, I'm looking at the actual budget report, because the memo is only on wages, right?
Correct.
I'm looking at the entire police budget, has only been spent 40% of it. There's over $700,000 left there.
Yes, so as of last Friday, there's 655.
Okay.
You know, you'll notice some of those, there's like the seminars, that
Could be end of
was
year type thing.
expended. There are some other costs that the, prosecutor that will go, there's not really that much
So
that,
once you complete all your
training.
projections, so if you project out to the end of the year, based on, you're expecting how much?
I would say after all said and done, between 100 and 150.
So we've got 100,000 out of police budget right now and be done.
It'd be done. Do you know offhand, like, what the monthly run rate is for wages for police officers? Is it 50,000 a month, 60,000 a month?
I don't, do you?
No, and I can't. Get into a room that
That's true. Whatever. You could do that.
So here's the problem, is so if we go full force,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Yeah, then it's obviously gonna be much higher than this, yeah.
So what happens? We have a union contract, we have to fill shifts. They're allowed so much vacation and so much, you have to remember, the budget is not, the budget's made around full force. So if we go full force and we have to fulfill these holidays and vacations, and what do we do?
What's the struggle hiring right now? Is just can't find police officers?
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, it's across the state.
Is it?
Maybe
This
towns
is
in
nothing
Litchfield,
special
somewhere.
about Litchfield. But we have one that we believe is coming on in the next couple weeks. So,
They just hired two.
and they just hired two
Okay, when they get hired?
about a month ago.
About a month ago.
Okay, so they're barely hitting this budget then, so that's part of, that'll cover some of the difference.
Are you contractually obligated to go full force?
Yes, if, we would have to notify the union that we intend to lay off, or cut a position.
Even if it was an open rec?
Yes.
Is it safe to say that Sergeant Savage's backfill will make less than him? So I think he's the highest paid officer right now, right? Or was?
Unless it is in, I mean, yes, it would be less. How much less depends upon the individual, whether they're on current staff,
Somewhere else.
right?
Or,
Their level of expertise, that, the years of service all matter in a police.
How close are they to
Okay.
completing the negotiation on that? I'm just curious as to like, I'd hate to get to like the end of December and be like, oh, by the way, this is where our contract is. Like, do we have an idea of when we think that'll wrap up so we can actually start factoring it in? The consideration?
I'd like to say next week, probably not. We're trying.
No, I hear you.
That'd be a warrant article.
Yeah, since that's a warrant, do you wanna remove it
Well-
now so we can vote in favor of the warrant? guess
Well, I
where
mean,
you going?
it all, does the taxpayer really care whether it's a warrant or a thing? Like, it's all
Oh, they don't,
holistic.
but
I'm
yeah.
appreciate, I view the budget holistically. Like, of all the things that I think need to be viewed at, if I would like to vote, if I would like to vote in favor of it, then I should be able to, I would like to know what the impact of that would be, that decision.
Okay.
But then again, I also think cars should be in the budget and not a warrant article. So like, there's a lot of areas I think that we keep kicking the can on tough decisions. Like, we keep saying keep level of service, but maybe at some point we just can't do that and allow people to maintain
Correct.
their family homesteads.
There's the.
So at some point, we have to have that conversation. And it's not, I realize it's not something we can do, but I also know there are people who have been in town forever, and I don't want to be the one that pushes them out from taxes.
All right.
I think that's an interesting conversation, because you'll see in,
I like what you're saying.
well, there's been many surveys done in the last couple of years about safety and the safety of your community, and about it being one of the highest.
Oh, that doesn't mean there aren't other areas that could be reduced to offset providing that. Oh, there's more than one department in town.
Right, as Parks and Recreation as an example.
We all have the ones that we would look at.
I think to set the tone, you know what, I'm gonna hold on that question. I'm not gonna do it right now.
Is
All right, I'll
there,
do it.
People are gonna turn red if I do it, so I'm not gonna do it.
Do it anyway. Do it anyway.
We're all friends here.
All right, so in terms of hydrants,
Hydrants.
It's
Well-
the one thing we can't cut.
to set the tone tonight, we understood there were, water rates that might be more in the town's favor, right? Or rates that would reduce, hopefully, some of the water expenses
Some negotiation was going on.
at some point. Is that still a factor that we can think through, or no? Okay.
I will tell you that I did confirm, just today, 6 hydrants. So we could take what we budgeted and add 6 more for our Hillcrest. You had asked that,
Like-
and I just,
Sorry, we need 6 more for 2024, or
Yes.
not till 2025?
2024.
Because they're
And that's
running a water
not in
line
this
here.
budget here?
It isn't.
He's gonna throw something
And-
out the window.
I am.
Another
So-
12.
I am.
Well, that's
So
another
I
12
asked-
grand.
Just insane.
Yep.
I asked him, I said, what's the impact
I
to
thought it was
that? So
1750.
here's
Oh, maybe
the
it is.
difficulty with water.
We need somebody on the board.
There was a rate case last November that got finalized that called for what they call a reclaim. So our hydrants went down a little from January to June. That could happen again. There's another rate case being filed in November, November 15th. November 15th, we'll have a whole lot more information. From my discussion with Penachuk, I understand this rate case will have some very different flavor than rate cases in the past. They're being, pretty tight-lipped on what they're doing, which is normal before you submit the rate case.
Especially to our county.
But depending on what happens to that, in that rate case, those hydrants could have another reclaim and they could go down. So am I in a rush to put 6 more hydrants in that budget? Absolutely not.
Have they ever gone down?
Not
though?
worried about it.
Have they ever gone down?
Yes, so
Okay.
January to June of this year, that reclaim
Okay.
it did lower the rate and.
It's just too bad we can't have like.
Call it an appeasement.
So I appreciate your,
Poking.
I appreciate the optimism,
a
but I think
tease.
for our purposes, we need to consider that 10,320 is now added to the $80,000 deficit. And that still gets us to a point of no warrant articles. So, hey, you know what? If we get some sort of relief on the 10,320 or the overall hydrant budget,
benefit.
that can go towards warrant articles.
Yeah.
But
You need
if
to-
we don't plan on this, then we're gonna, 11th hour, we're gonna be slashing something
Right.
And I think the
that
same-
nobody's doing any research
And
on.
I think the same can be said about the insurance savings. I mean, right now it's 15 point whatever.
Yeah.
But they're looking into it, so those
Hopefully it
monies,
goes
if there's
down,
any
yeah.
savings, then that could go towards
Yes.
warrant articles.
Because no offense, but you know what? You can't beat City Hall. And there's only 2 groups that are worse than City Hall, and that's gonna be your utilities and then your insurance companies. You never win against them.
I'm gonna say schools, but
I'm trying to be nice to them.
Well, I wasn't expecting that conversation to result in an increase, but nevertheless.
Thank you for asking.
My pleasure.
But then again, they're not in. And so we expected Hillcrest to start last May.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not done now, but
It should be. They just signed with the excavation company, and I just got a schedule for what might be a start in a couple weeks. And so we're gonna post the schedule just because it will impact roads if it really happens. But then the winter's gonna come and they're gonna halt. And they'll pick it up next spring. So what if those hydrants, at very best case, don't get operational until next October? What, are you gonna add them in at the whole year?
Because if we don't, then I know what the flip side is going to be. Oh, the budget committee cut it too close, and now at this point, I don't get enough to be able to get through year end. I mean, in this seat, it's a lose-lose situation. I mean, what is wrong with planning for it? And then at that point, if we need to, it's available for warrant articles. And then to Carrie's point, you know what? You start putting some of the equipment and things like that out to warrant, and at least you've got a cushion there. And you know what? I know the taxpayers will vote yes to everything, and then they'll go over the tax cap by themselves anyway. But I mean, that's kind of the way that works. I mean,
I think it's gonna be a very different March this year.
Well, I don't think we'll know, prior to town meeting when exactly those hydrants will come online. So I don't think it'll help you with the warrant article.
Chairwoman, are we officially on 4210?
I think we should be, yes.
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
then?
I told you I shouldn't ask.
Can I make a motion to cut line 111 PD officers by 50,000?
I'll second.
I just figured there's at least $50,000 sitting there.
Where is 50,000? Where's that number? Just
because like I said, if you look at where we are today, let me go back to the Word document there. We spent like 40% of PD wages at this point. Like, at the end of the year, we're gonna spend maybe 60%.
So we could view that as an attrition reduction.
Attrition reduction, yeah.
You're not eliminating a position.
I'm not in a position, it's just,
Yeah.
they're not spending all that money.
I was looking at it that I was gonna make a similar proposal and just say bottom line, because you know what, take some of it out of
Yeah, I guess-
wages
I
and
guess
some
they-
out of
I think they don't
OT.
care where it comes
Like,
from,
you-
yeah.
take your pick
I
as to
like
how
the
you wanna
turnout.
balance it.
I like the
That's
attrition
assuming-
version though.
That next year, you're gonna be short officers on a regular basis
It is
also.
assuming that, yes.
But I like,
It's the same thing we do at school, we always have an attrition deduction.
and attrition makes sense though, like honestly, because you are gonna be, we're hopefully filling the positions,
Yeah,
but the reality
But if
is,
yeah.
if we're if some of our seasoned officers are moving on to their more retirement years, then hopefully the newer folks are at a lower rate, so.
If you look at Savage, he makes $10,000 more than most of the other officers, so.
I wasn't gonna call any names, but I'm just
Well,
saying.
he's more retired, so,
Say
you
the
know,
highest paid, the highest
Mr.
paid.
Taylor, would you like to amend that motion?
to make a bottom line, I don't mind.
Sure, I'd like to amend it to, change it to a bottom line reduction of 70,000.
Motion to amend.
I second it.
70, seconded by Mr. Hayes. Any more discussion?
Just interested in the select board's thoughts.
My question would be, if it's 50,000 in salary, then sure, then you can consider perhaps, instead of a health plan, the family gold standard, then you have some other stuff. So there are,
Yes.
There was a second.
yeah, there are some opportunities if you consider it all in one, the retirement changes and other benefits associated with salary, then perhaps you could get to 70. But,
So this is only to line 111 though, this,
No,
the.
he meant
No, I
to
made,
be
I made it a
bottom line.
bottom line.
So
reduction,
it would
yeah.
include health and,
Health,
Everything.
overtime,
okay,
wages, seminars, I
see
don't
what you're
care.
saying. Amend 7K to bottom line.
I don't know where they lie. If there's extra money in the budget, I don't see an issue with the cut, but I haven't talked to Mike French about it, so I don't know where they're at on this.
I'm gonna vote in favor of the motion. But in years past, right, if we get it wrong, I have no qualm about supporting it being added back into the budget.
That's fair.
So I'm really interested in what the police department's reaction is to this particular reduction.
We'll probably find out tomorrow.
So I would
Well, I think
say
you might find
that
out sooner.
I should just turn this over.
if you look at line 140, between department proposed and selectmen proposed, see that delta? We already trimmed this budget down to as much as we felt we could possibly get out of it, so it's, you know,
And again, that's what.
So I guess my point as far as the 70 is that, you know what, as I've gone through, I have cuts for every single department. I realize that there's a couple of items, hydrants, that I can't cut. But in order for us to get to the number, everybody has to give a pound of flesh. And you know what, sure, does their number look higher? Yes, but their budget is much higher than every other department as well. So it's just, you know, I just look at it, you know, expect a lot of motions from me tonight that, you know what, it's gonna be little dollars, but it's gonna be 2% here, 2% there, 3% there, because you know what, everybody's gonna have to tighten the belt a little bit, otherwise we're never gonna get back under the tax cap with that $100,000 savings.
Right. And the difference between the selectmen and the police department budget is with the expectation from the police department that they're fully staffed. And I think realistically, if you just take a look, like you said yourself, it's throughout the state. I mean, you see it all over the place. They're posting for positions. I mean, we've had it on the marquee out here for months.
yes, and the difference with a police budget is even if we hire, if it's a new person that hasn't done, that's 4 months at academy, right? We're still paying that person to be at the academy, but we're backfilling that shift on the road with overtime.
Out of curiosity, why, so the approved budget last year was 1.8 million, they asked for 2.2 this year, so that's like a 20% increase? What was the reasoning for that?
Because we took the officer out, remember? I think we're looking to put it back.
Right. some of it is that.
Well, and you have the cars in there too.
Oh, were the cars originally in there?
Yeah,
Originally,
Oh, okay,
they
that was
were.
the
We pulled
big
them
chunk.
out. though.
Oh, I see it, yeah, they moved those. Okay.
that's a
That's
big,
200,000.
that's a
right?
big part of it.
So that's what they cut, they cut the
And we've-
cars.
Any more discussion?
I'll just say, I'll be happy if we can actually get the budget down enough where we can vote on the cars. I'd be happy to vote in favor of those. Like not against this budget. I'm just trying to find money.
Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor to reduce the police budget 4210.10 by $70,000, say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? Motion carries 7-1-0.
Are we voting on the change of the amendment language, or are we voting on the amendment?
Oh, that was the first.
Oh,
That was
good
the amendment.
call.
That was the
Okay,
amendment.
that was the amendment, my mistake.
So then we have to vote on that.
So we have amended the motion.
Well, he can withdraw his original motion, his original motion, and you can keep the amended motion, I believe.
We still have to vote on it. We voted to amend.
Well, it's just as easy this way.
Yeah.
So all those in favor in the for the amended motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? Motion carries 7-1-0. All right. Anything else for police administration? No? Okay. Let's move on to police support, 4210.50. Anyone have anything here that they'd like to discuss? Discuss or change?
I'll make a motion. Reduce the bottom line for police support by $4,000.
I'll second.
Motion to reduce bottom line by $4,000, is that what we said? $4,000, and we have a second. Any discussion?
Where and why?
Yeah, where,
Yep,
yeah.
I'd love to hear your reasoning.
Just because?
The why is because everybody's gonna need to pitch in, and you know what? I mean, I know that if everybody had to cut, hydrants would have to cut $9,000. That's not an option. So, you know what? We're gonna have to find some different areas. We're a little bit ahead based on the police cut. But if I keep whittling away, well, not this department, not this department, not this department, then some other poor department is gonna take a big hit. I don't think any one department needs to take a huge hit. Everybody just has to figure out a way to tighten up the belt.
I think, well, I appreciate your reasoning. I don't see the ability to absorb that, and I think that if we were gonna do 4,000, it should come out of the larger police budget, which has more opportunity to rearrange and distribute that reduction.
So
We're
I didn't-
talking two, this is essentially what, 2 salaries and incidentals associated with that. So we're gonna ask them to not work 2 weeks? Like, I don't understand how we're gonna pull out of this. So like I said, I appreciate the logic, I just.
So I guess here's the other thing. The town has a bottom line budget. I hear from the school all the time. It doesn't matter what department I pull it from.
Stop picking on
Then at that point, it's going to end up coming out wherever they decide to put it. I guess my point would be, I asked at the meeting a couple weeks ago, maybe it opens up the conversation around maybe the dispatch service contract expands hours to avoid overtime. And now all of a sudden, if I avoid overtime, guess what? I can start to drop that 9,500 in half. There's my cut right there.
So
It's forcing a creative way of thinking instead of just sticking to the status quo.
We could do a bottom line reduction, but I don't think that's allowed on the town side. Is that
you
correct?
can't do a bottom line cut on the budget itself, but you can
On
do
the
it by
budget
department.
itself. But I
So
mean,
this
that's
is another example
essentially,
of like
that's
insur-
essentially what we're trying to do, is do a bottom line cut, and we're saying everybody has to participate. As opposed to going back to the departments and asking everybody to reduce their budgets by 2%, which is still doable.
So is this one that a position has been added, and that's why the insurance is up?
A census changed in there. It's still the same too.
Okay, but the coverage changed.
Yeah, yeah.
Life status.
And that's basically what,
There is one opening
That's
though.
what my husband did.
So
Change of life
there's
status.
one position within this budget that is not currently filled.
It's like you either live or dead.
but I was just asking the question about the insurance, because the insurance is has an increase of like $11,000. And that's not the new rate, that's just a change in coverage.
Yeah, yeah. And as Kim said, that we lost one of those, and that insurance could increase depending on who you
Right.
get.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would also encourage us looking at our buyout. I think we have a very generous buyout, and that would be an opportunity to potentially save some money long-term. I know what my buyout is.
It's saving money, but that's essentially a pay cut to the people that are.
Well, we could
Using
also
it.
reduce their hours to achieve a savings, which would also be a pay cut.
Right.
So, I mean, if we only have so many dollars, they can, I'm perfectly happy with them saying, I can afford to pay you $100. You tell me how you want it sliced. If you want it in higher pay and lower benefits, that's fine. You want it in higher benefits, well, then you get lower pay.
A buyout or a payout, whichever way you wanna slice it, is not compensation. That's my answer to that.
We're doing is they're actually, a
Technically,
lot of them are
yes.
not paying for insurance. We're paying their private insurance through their other employer.
Madam Chairman, we
Yeah.
have a motion and a second. Sorry.
Okay, I think that's a call to vote.
We have a long night ahead of us.
I don't know, and Andrew now might be my favorite. I love call to vote.
All those in favor to reduce the 4210.50 police support budget by $4,000 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No, I'm sorry.
Those opposed?
No.
No. Abstained? Motion fails
Did we vote no?
1-7-0.
We didn't?
Like I said, I appreciate the idea, I don't see it here.
No, I missed one.
When we get to the end, and you know what, there's still a number sitting there,
Yeah.
Cry Me a River.
No, we'll just go back to it.
not with the hydrant water.
If only we could give them to Manchester, just saying. Get rid of Pennachuck.
Okay, on to 4290.10 emergency management.
Say 4390?
290.
290. Oops. That is too far.
This will be interesting.
Did anybody have any places they'd like to make any motions or discussion?
Like to make a motion? Reduce that emergency management bottom line by $400.
I will second.
Motion to reduce by 400, made by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Ms. Douglas. Any discussion?
Again, I'd ask where the money comes from.
Did we really not pay hazmat dues last year?
I think
No,
we,
it was in the fire
It was in
budget,
the fire
think I
budget.
moved.
and now it's in this budget,
Ah.
under emergency management where it belongs.
But it was in there before, so that's just weird.
Those are just the numbers from the fire department.
They
Oh,
just,
okay,
they carried
you
them
moved-
over.
I see
So the
what you-
budget itself is up the $700 for
Gotcha.
that line.
CERT team training, maybe it's just not as many people. Equipment replacement, I mean, between there, you got $3,000, you know, just looking for $400 out of that 3,000.
Could you?
Is that an actual number for training? Like, is it associated with bringing someone in for the training, or is that just we're not sure, we're putting a placeholder in?
No, so there is required training
Mm-hmm.
for cert. There's 3 modules that are required. And then there are associated costs with the things that they will need to get started. So they have to have the flagging vest, they have to have the flags, they have to have the, so we weighed that all out, and that's how we came up with the $1,500 amount.
And
Because
how
it
many,
looks
how many,
awfully
how many
round, so
flaggers
it
would
looks
that
like a
end up being?
placeholder.
I mean, I see on Facebook that it's, hey, you know what, if you're interested, we could use the help, come one, come all.
And I think we're gonna have more than we probably than we budgeted for. We counted low, you know, if we had 20 to 30, but the open house, there was a lot of,
Maybe ask the public as part of your volunteering, will you buy your own equipment?
There you go.
Or sponsor one, right?
Do you need,
Sponsor a flag.
and you think you need 20 to 30 people trained?
yes, because the problem that you get into is you have an event, and I'm just pulling one out of the air because it's a holiday, 4th of July, right?
Right.
You have 20 or 30 people in your CERT team but 10 aren't available. You know, so that's the problem so you're better off with higher numbers, because you'll often find on some holidays and events, perhaps the majority of your CERT team isn't available because they have their own lives. So it doesn't mean you would use the whole entire CERT team for every event.
Yeah, okay. Just need a larger pool of people to pull from.
Right.
Isn't there a separate account for fire department, equipment and maintenance?
There is, under the fire department, yes.
That's their account. This is different.
This is emergency management.
Is this equipment that you're expecting to, like, each person has their own vest, or is it there's 10 at town hall and they're handed out to whoever's there, like, for that event?
Oh, great question. Yeah, so normally they have their CERT bag that they take, because town hall may not be open when an event is called, or they are directed by the emergency
department.
management director.
I think a lot of that changed with COVID too, as far as you sharing equipment, sharing vests, hats, things like
I
that.
mean, I think it's changed back. So.
All the same is an uptick.
Madam Chair, I'd like to call a question.
It's $400.
We spent more
All
than
right.
I got a lot of favorites here tonight.
All right. All those in favor of reducing the 4290.10 emergency management by $400 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No, whatever you say.
Was that 5-3? Abstain? Motion carries 5-3-0. I should have done roll call votes.
hands.
No, we don't have that.
That adds like 20% of time to the meeting.
$400
All right, next up is 4220 fire.
4220.
So I'll just put it here.
All right, I'll fire it up. I'll make a motion.
Oh, boy.
Reduce bottom line budget by 14,000.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Taylor, a second by Ms. Douglas. Motion, it was 42,000?
No, 14,000.
14,000.
1-4.
I'm glad I clarified.
So we're up to
Fire?
50. So are we taking a percentage off the top, or is there actually numbers
Yep.
associated with this?
Nope,
14,000.
2% across the board.
Any discussion?
Where the money's from.
Hmm,
30 seconded it.
yeah.
So Scott, do you have a number in mind where you're trying to get below at the end?
Yes, I'm trying by the time we get to the end of voting next week, that we're back to
70 coverage.
under the tax cap with some room to be able to vote on warrant articles and not be at a stalemate as soon as we get
No,
warrant
I'm just
articles
asking,
and can't
because, I
afford
mean,
any.
if this were to pass, this 14,000, we basically would be below the tax cap.
Not necessarily, because then, like I said, we've got 9,000 in hydrants, plus the 10,000 for the 6 additional. I'm not gonna be able to get that 9K out of hydrants. We already didn't get the police support one, so I've got a running tally right now that, you know what? By the end of the night, we need to get to a certain area, and then, obviously, when we get to the later ones, there's really not much that we cut, because they have small budgets.
Their overall budget's up 48,000. You take the money that we just discussed, 9,000 for the hazmat, all their increases are salaries, or, so do we cut positions? Because we have the 35,000 approved by the voters for the weekend coverage, 10.5 for training wages, and 15.5 for the wages for the call firefighters. All the other positions, even wage positions, are down in this budget, so I don't know where that would come from.
Well, like you guess,
It's gonna have to come from stuff.
you got,
Thermal imaging cameras, 15.
Well,
Could that be end of year funds?
you also have vehicle
General
repairs that are
limited.
up 12,000.
With
Diesel
a brand new
fuel.
truck.
What is diesel fuel
Also a lot of
realistically
Asian
at
trucks, though.
425
Pretty close.
for a price?
They might
But I mean,
be
how many
more.
times do we roll out all these trucks?
That's right,
Again,
'cause we
there's
don't-
a collection of toys over there that
Savings.
probably should, I mentioned it last year. Nice if we actually looked at selling off some of the equipment that we had. But
Yes, we were actually charged higher than that in September.
That's the whole convenience fee. And there are no
think we-
current grants available for imaging cameras, protective gear, anything like that?
So, I meant to ask the fire chief when he was in here, but any idea when the last time was they went into a fire using the camera?
No.
And I know they're old, but they work, right?
I think he
The-
said some of them are starting to fail and they can't get parts for them.
Right.
And this particular
That's
one
what he said.
is, excuse me, is the original,
Yep, the ones that he
the
put in,
original
yep.
camera that they purchased. I don't recall the years, but it was over 10.
Yeah, it's over 10, yeah.
I remembered a conversation about them buying them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was,
We have more than one, right?
no,
We
no,
have-
no, maybe it was 10 years ago when, but it was the same thing. They were like looking to replace.
It was the original ones that they bought, yeah.
So I guess to answer Mr. Leary, I mean, there's, you know, the camera,
Maintenance.
vehicle maintenance.
I see that.
There's
as an
areas there
area.
besides just the, cameras.
Seminars.
Is that a required equipment, I'm guessing? Like, is there a certain required, like, they need their jackets, right, their, all the protective gear.
Yep.
And of course, we want them to have the equipment that they need, but it wouldn't shut down operations without it. It's just that much less information about
Well,
what they're
the
going into.
cameras, yeah, but I
Okay.
mean, if they go into a building,
Right,
Safety.
they,
safety, yeah.
not only safety of the firefighters, but if there's somebody in the building,
That's how
I
they
mean, they
find
can
them.
pick up where that person may be.
Okay,
Or if
And we
one
have
of our
two.
firefighters
Yeah.
is hurt inside that building,
That's
that's
how
how
you
we
find
find them.
and we have how many? Two?
Three, I thought.
I think there's
Three.
three, I believe there's
Yeah.
three, yep. And the one they're trying to replace is really old, so.
Go fund me. I'm not kidding you. Some of this
Yeah.
stuff, like, it just seems like it'd be
Like a
easier if, like,
raffle
somebody would be like,
with the open
oh,
house.
I could find a thermal camera. Gee, tax write-off, done. As opposed to, gee, let's have this battle every year.
Well, I think if we have a, God forbid, we have a fire.
We wanna
Right.
have it, it's just how do we
But
get
if we
it?
have a fire, we're responding with more than one vehicle.
In more than one
in
town a lot of
In
times.
more than one town, usually with mutual aid.
If we-
So what is the probability of that we have other trucks, other apparatus there that is our equipment that carry the other two cameras we're not replacing? Right, so we'll have a camera there anyways.
But again, that's if they want to cut the camera. I mean, the motion is just
Yeah.
for $14,000.
It's a bottom line budget. And looking at like current year expenses, there's still 33% of the budget left. And it's mostly stuff like equipment repairs, equipment purchases, healthcare. So there's probably $14,000 in savings there without cutting anything.
I'm just trying to look at a round number that's close, right?
10, is that what you're thinking of?
Well, no, I mean, 14 matches almost the camera, which is why it's an easy target out of this budget at the moment, so.
I'd like to see that as an end of year purchase
Purchase.
or a fundraiser.
There's another option too.
I'd like to call
Any
the
other
vote.
discussion? Yeah, that was essentially my question.
I mean, the
Any
reality
discussion?
is, we're in a tough spot, and it's, nobody wants to take away the funding for
The
safety.
question has been called. All those in favor of reducing, 4220 fire by $14,000 signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
I,
Abstain? Motion carries 6-0.
And it's, again, it's not to say that the equipment's not needed, it's just,
It's fund it. Let's find another way to fund it. Okay, next up is 4550 library.
I was just giving
Like
other
to
people a
start, Mr.
chance.
Taylor, or is anyone else have a-
I'll make a
But you're on a
motion
roll.
to reduce library bottom line by $6,550.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to reduce, by $6,550. $6,550. By Mr. Taylor and a second by Mr. Bork. Any discussion? Was that a specific thing you were looking to cut?
Nope.
That just
Again,
happened to be the
I'll
2%?
reiterate each time, 2%,
All right.
2%, 2%, 2%. if you wanna go into it, I mean, at that point,
Point's getting bigger, I'm sure.
Yep.
We'll start looking at
All right.
all sorts of stuff.
Any other discussion? I mean, I would just say that they have been, that the library's been responding to the requests for expansion of services, and they have been meeting those without any additional, any additional people since the warrant failed last year, and I don't see how they could continue to meet that demand, without the requested budget.
Yeah, I would add that too. I mean, it only went up, what, like $7,000 over last year. That's a pretty nominal increase. It's basically a flatline budget.
Insurance buyouts.
Is that what it is, or?
Oh, there's money available in insurance buyouts. We are very generous with our insurance buyouts. There's opportunities within this budget to find ways to.
Are the insurance buyouts contractual? Is that in the contract, or is that just what we offer?
They are contractual for the, union, because that is in the
But
contract.
not the library, obviously.
Um,
Do you
Right.
got, does the town side basically give the town employees the same stuff and negotiate with the unions, the same benefits, or is it completely different?
No, not all the town employees get everything that the union gets, no. But, yeah, we try, to have some common language. And you generally see common language around health benefits, things of that sort. You may not see, common language around overtime or holidays or things of that sort, but.
what sort of notice would you have to give to a non-union employee if you were to make a change to the health insurance opt-out?
So if we were to make a change, if the board was to vote in a change, specifically just to the buyout, it's generally by plan year. So November 9th is the date that we have to have any changes, in insurance to health trust that would take effect in January.
And to clarify, how many hours do a town employee need to work in order to be eligible for health insurance as opposed to the library? I thought library was a lower number,
32 for library.
32 for library.
as opposed to,
40 for the full-time is, part-time is at 30 or more, and they pay half.
I remember we had the
All the
conversation
benefit.
when they made this adoption, and I remember the significant increase in impact it had to the budget. So there are things I think that the library could do and could consider in an effort to help make it so that other safety issues in town can be paid for. Not that people don't appreciate the library, and I'm sure that there are very die-hard people who utilize it very frequently. But when push comes to shove, we only have so many dollars available.
Right.
So
I
if we-
would say though, you have to be very careful when it's library.
Well, that's
Board
why,
of Selectmen do not have the authority over library employees, the board of trustees.
no, I know, but we can just say, I'm sorry, we're not giving you the money for it, you decide how you're gonna spend it.
You can do that.
No, oh yeah, well, yeah, we can definitely.
You can do that.
Do you know how many employees are taking the opt-out, like what that number represents?
For the library?
two?
Yeah.
I think 2.
2, okay.
On the flip side of that is, if you take the opt-out away and they decide to take the insurance, now you're looking at 40 grand.
It's true.
Yeah,
We've had
I'm
that-
not-
We had that discussion a few
Yes,
years
we,
ago.
Yeah.
yes, we did, and I would still contend that, was it 50% buyout versus a 25% buyout, isn't probably gonna be what differs between changing this. Like, if I had, yeah,
I still see that the library and other departments are still understaffed, like even position-wise.
well, we can agree to, we all have our opinions on staffing. So,
And it's not only the library that's that way, but we have other departments that are budgeted to be fully staffed, and they have the positions that they need in the budget, and
So
That's
where
not
do you
the norm.
propose to get us to under the cap then?
We're making those cuts, I'm saying not here.
We're all moving the same direction. I'm perfect, I would cut more, so I'm okay with whatever.
I know, because you choose to use these services, you choose to pay for services like these. There's a lot of people that take advantage of these services because they can't pay for additional education.
I appreciate that some people feel it's understaffed. When I go there, I don't share that opinion. So we have a difference of opinion.
I
So
know.
it is what it is.
Yeah, that's all right.
So if I could just make one more point in regards to the motion. So if I take a look at starting, towards the bottom, library supplies, it's proposed at 2,400. As of mid-September, it was 1,142. That's obviously behind. Community programs, budget 2,500. Actual spend through mid-September, 1,077. Equipment maintenance contracts, half of that budget is spent, but that's halfway through September. So I think that there's dribs and drabs that you can grab from many of these, electricity, for example. Asking for 6,500 through mid-September, expended 3,500. I see a lot of paper cut type ways that this kills the budget that can easily absorb that 6,500. And then, perhaps it's look, you know what? The opt-out is not going to be 10,794. Next year, it's going to be 8,000. To Mr. Leary's point, maybe you don't want to fully eliminate it to force people into taking insurance, which is going to be more expensive. But the cost of taking on the insurance versus taking a small haircut when it comes to the opt-out, that's certainly a viable option. So I think I just laid out probably 6 areas where, there's money there without, and I didn't mention one thing about eliminating staff.
And the thing is with an opt-out, most likely they're opting out because they have insurance availability to them elsewhere. $8,000 is a huge buyout. It's huge. Yeah, I'm sure I'll call a question.
Like,
We have, the question is called to remove $6,550 from 4550 library. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed? Aye. Abstain? Motion carries
430.
5. I was trying to say 6. 5-0. All right.
Nobody
I have it in my head that it needs to add up to 9. Okay.
Well, I bet Mr. Chairman is sad that he's sitting home with pneumonia. He'd much rather be here having fun with us.
All right, next
Oh,
up
man.
is
Better, JD.
4611, conservation.
What number?
4611. Back to here.
I'll make a motion. Bottom line reduction, $112.
Second that.
Call it.
Can I write it down first? All right. We have a motion to reduce by,
I mean, if someone wants to talk about
what
it,
was
fine,
it?
$112.
$112 by Mr. Taylor, seconded by, was that
Hey.
this? Yep.
What's the,
Should I ask you where?
no, I actually have a question.
All right, 430, property management.
I have a question actually on this one. The Darapon milfoil assessment, is that we're just doing the assessment before we're gonna have for a warrant first, or we're just going to go straight to the assessment first?
No,
Because-
so this is the report to get the information on what a potential cost would be, and so this is the initial study.
So if we know that there's a study and we know it's related to conservation, why could we not use the conservation budget for this, their fund for this specific item? We're not talking in this case buying shovels and chainsaws. We're actually talking about a known cost with a known person with a contract you could pay, you could do a PO for. Do we have to come out of the budget here? Could
I
it
feel
not
like you
come out?
anticipated this question, Ms. Kleiner.
That is at the discretion of the Conservation Commission.
But, I mean, it's a different argument than like, well, we can't, buying chainsaws and stuff and having petty cash. This is actually like, you could get a quote, you could get a PO, you could do it through their actual fund without ever having to reimburse anybody out of petty cash.
Agreed.
Alright, so can I either amend or retract my,
So I will amend it for a reduction of $2,000 and encourage them to pursue this worthwhile thing through their own budget.
wait, is yours 2,000 or you're adding 2,000 to my 112?
I was gonna roll your 112 into the 2,000, but we can do,
Yeah.
So we have an,
I was gonna do 2,000 even, just 2,000. But, cause that would factor in your 112.
Alright.
So 2,000 even.
so we have a motion to amend.
Someone second?
Second.
Is there a second? All right. So amended to 2112.
How much is
No,
in the
2,000.
conservation budget?
Just 2,000.
How much is the conversation?
112.
$1 million? $1 million?
Like that, yeah.
Yeah. A little bit more.
A little bit more than that, yeah.
And they have several, they have some things on the fire right now.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
maybe they need this in the fire.
A lot, a lot of it.
If what?
Well, they have some things in the works right now that will eat up pretty good chunk of that money.
Will be 2,000?
Just a little bit more.
2,000 is the interest on their account, like, if, unless they don't have it in an interest-bearing account, in which case, we should discuss our money management. They should be,
No.
their interest alone should be able to cover the $2,000.
Madam Chair, I'd like to call a
Is there,
question.
I had a question. If there is like a land purchase, the legal fees, that just comes out of the town's legal fees for that? Like if they were to,
They have
or
to
that
pay
would
for
come out of the
Yep.
conservation trust fund?
Yep.
Okay,
Right,
all right.
yes.
And if they were
Purchase.
hopefully smart about it, they could, word it such that it's subject to approval in March, and they wouldn't even have to touch their budget, just saying.
Okay, so we have a motion to reduce,
To amend.
to amend, to 2,000, a 2,000 reduction.
2112.
I said 2,000.
2,000.
I said 2,000.
You said
I
2,000.
thought it was that too, and then she told me. Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Abstained? All right, motion carries 5-3-0. So that is to amend. Is there any more discussion on the actual motion? No? Okay, so all those in favor to reduce 4611 conservation by $2,000 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carry, or abstain? Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to 4221.20, code.
Who came up with these numbers?
These are very old numbers.
No, it's actually by, yeah,
Is it like?
state,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Does
That's
anyone
got-
have any recommendations for,
Make a motion to reduce 4241.20 code bottom line by $1,940.
Second.
4241? All right, we have a motion to reduce by, one more time,
1,940.
940?
Yeah,
Okay.
1940.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Motion to reduce by $1,940 by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Ms. Douglas. Any discussion?
Broken record, but where?
I mean,
It's a tough one, but I mean.
this is
I
books and
mean,
periodicals.
I always get the, well, you have to have seminars and conventions, I have to have these books, I have to have this, I mean,
He took seminars and conventions out, he took 1,300 out of there.
Right,
Yeah, this one's pretty tight.
it's,
It's basically just,
and the 5200
her.
software we have to have.
Right, but I think this comes out of 670, well, not all of it, but most of it comes out of 670. What's the do you have the actuals?
The
Ms. Klein?
annual updates of the building code and things of that sort, I mean, they're in that budget, but we all use them.
Right, but I'm looking at the actuals that are presented here. Do you have the actual spend?
it just seems odd that it went from 367 to 1,500.
There's been a lot of code updates in the
Yes.
last few years.
Man, I think there may be 1,000 here, I don't know.
This
Not
budget's actually
1,900.
just about on.
Working.
As of September, there was 28% left, which is
Okay,
about right.
all right.
And so
Mr.
these,
Barker found it, thank you very much.
What did you say?
I have the September numbers. I don't know what the October. She might have October, but
Yeah, I have October.
Well, I just seen the IBC 2021, single license, $112. Member price, you know, soft cover copy, 192. So that's a lot of books. So I'm just-
It's not 1,900, right?
Yeah, they spent 300, 200.
They spent 3 out of 15. But everything else
yeah, they did.
is right. Can't touch salaries. He already reduced the seminars.
Did they
Tonight,
in yours? Did they spend the books? Because in September it was only $299 spent in books.
books is high.
$299.95.
Yeah, so
1,200.
that kind of goes back to the old stuff then. Historically, the books were what, 200, 367, then it went up to 1,500 last year, but it doesn't look like they actually spent 1,500. Was there a reason for that?
I believe he's ordered the updates of the code.
Oh, they just haven't come yet, maybe.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, I seeing it online, it's less than $200 for one IBC update version. So are we buying 10 of them? Like,
No, but there's residential, there's commercial, there's electrical, there's like 5
well,
different.
then we should get the online, we should get the license that allows us access to
All the
all of
ones
them.
we
for
got.
less than that.
Yeah, mechanical, electrical.
Plumbing.
I only had a half a banana today.
I would encourage looking at alternate ways of obtaining that, whether that's an annual license that allows you to access all of them for a less, like, I think it was $200, you got access to stuff. So I just think that I appreciate, and I am very much a hard copy kind of person, but if I can also do a license that allows me regular updates to be included for a lot less, that might be something we should look at.
No more hard copy budgets for Kerry.
Dude, I don't even get my bill for my
Madam Chairman, I'll
license
call the
anymore.
question.
Or registration,
all
so,
right,
no.
question has been called. All those in favor of reducing 4241 code by $1,940 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain?
Uh-oh.
Motion fails 4-4.
Yeah, we're told. I think it's high.
Some sales.
Fails 4-4-0. All right, 4411.10 health. Do we have any motions for the health department? Is there officially nowhere to cut in this one?
Got 300.
Okay.
All right, moving on to 4215 ambulance. 215.
This is a contract.
Holy moly.
I know, I've never liked this one. Scott's got the fire.
You should like this one.
It's kind of basically our hands are tied on this one, right?
No, I don't like how we
Contract
get
and that's
treated
it.
by our neighbor.
And then we're guessing as to how much
This is a very good
non-payment we end up getting, and that's based on historical average, right?
Correct.
All right. So
So
nothing on,
can I, who goes after the debt?
Um,
I mean, like, what steps do we take to recoup the money?
a great question. So we do, internally, Karen's office.
Just
and
by
then-
making phone calls or letters,
Send a letter,
and that's it?
and then we send it to collections.
But the reality is, you only had like 5,000 in 2022, right? That's a big improvement from 2018, 'cause I remember that year.
Yeah.
I think there was an even bigger year. Yep, there's some really nasty years on those. So, I'm thankful that you have been able to be, well, or to the people who have been more diligent in paying their bills.
I guess why the contract, I guess, is that the reason for the big jump from the 64 to the 83?
Yes,
Just the rate, basically?
yes.
But year to date, we're lower than normal? Is that accurate, or?
So we
We only have 2 quarters paid.
yeah.
Oh, okay, so got the
We pay
third quarter, yeah.
quarterly, yeah.
That makes sense.
You mean,
I was gonna ask if the fourth quarter is like the busy one or
you
something.
may not have been here, but I remember like, you said they hadn't negotiated a new rate for some time until this past
Right.
year.
Right, almost 10 years, yeah.
Okay.
Chart.
And looking at the cost of their budget and their expenses, it was valid.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for ambulance? All right, moving on to 4220.90 hydrants.
Here we go, Taylor.
I abstain.
Anyone have anything for hydrants?
I wish I did.
Yeah.
Just to
We could add 6 to it.
I
Not
would
yet.
just love to see us.
It's an excellent point, Mr. Cutter.
All right. Nothing on hydrants.
Hold on.
Just a
No,
lament.
Wait,
just
we
looking for the
beat that
line
down.
item number.
Oh man, he's gonna add to it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
4220.90, 412.
Line 412 would like to increase that budget line item by $10,320.
We have
I
a
will
motion.
second it, but, because I have a question.
We have a motion to increase by 10,300 by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Ms. Douglas.
The actual rate per, it's like 1750, right? Something like that.
258 divided by.
That one's not?
Yeah.
Should be. Computer.
I was putting money in
Yeah, 1719.96 per.
Thank you.
It'll be fine. We're good for now, but thank you. So how frequent, is that paid quarterly?
Yep.
So you don't anticipate them being live until spring?
That's
Oh, I
anticipated.
don't think it's gonna be live until
October.
October, November.
So I'm just, my point is like perhaps half of what the anticipated expense makes more sense, because if it's not gonna be live for the first 2 quarters, we're not gonna get a bill till at least the second half.
Why do you not anticipate it to be online prior to that?
I don't think the project will be done. So they're gonna shut down, I mean, they can only,
The reality is,
Probably
So they're
what
gonna
they're-
tear up the road and not finish it
Right.
to put in these pipes and put in hydrants.
so why was
so
that?
they're gonna
months.
do some excavation right now. Then, as soon as it gets cold enough, they will halt that, and they will actually do the hookup within the homeowners. So there's some work that they can do there on the homeowners portion inside the house and that type of thing. And then they won't open it up again and start the project again until the ground thaws.
Right,
And,
and the asphalt plants are actually up and running again, cause they're gonna shut down probably soon anyway.
right, so I don't anticipate with the length of how long it has taken for this to, like I said, it was supposed to be done in May. I do not see those hydrants being operated before next fall, and I would rather wait and see the rate case and see if we get another reclaim on the hydrants again, because it's pretty common to. So I think we all are very careful in our budgeting, which we should be. But I bet there hasn't been a year yet. Karen, you tell me if I'm wrong. Has there been a year that we've under budgeted hydrants?
I don't know, I'd have to go back and look at, some of it. It might have been by a little because of all the projects that were going on in those.
So if the rate case has no effect, and these hydrants aren't in until October, then there's only $2,500 that's needed as opposed to 10. But you're saying there are other things that can even wash that away.
So I guess in my comment around that is, it's funny how in this situation, we're trying to figure out on an increase that, oh, well, no, that's not gonna happen until the second half of the year, so let's cut this in half. However, whenever we take a look at staffing or fuel or electricity or anything, and we're saying, well, we should plan on it being higher because we don't wanna have a shortfall. Like, why isn't the same logic here where it is plan for the worst, hope for the best, and then obviously if there is a rate change, we still have a chance, you know, even at deliberative, to go ahead and knock that down some. But I just find it very odd that when I try to cut something, I get a lot of pushback of, well, we might hire somebody right away, and it'll be the full year. Well, no, what if you figure you don't hire them until after the first quarter?
We're thinking that it sounds like we're gonna have some more information relatively soon,
I
or is
think,
it not that soon? To, like the rate.
we'll
cases?
so the rate case will be filed, which we could at least look at. We can't,
Yeah, you don't know.
yeah, I'm shooting in the dark right now. I know there's going to be some changes in the rate case because I've been told that by Penachuk. What they are and how drastic and what they will impact, I do not know. But I do think we'll have some more information by the end of the year. Mr. Ware gave us the number of the hydrants to budget for 2024. We budgeted the amount that Mr. Ware gave us. I trust in his estimates. You asked me to find out how many hydrants were in the Hillcrest project, which I did. If Mr. Ware did not include them in his numbers that he gave us, I'm willing to bet he's right.
I'd be voting
People have been
against
getting
it.
fought on trying to add budget.
Are the
just don't think the
hydrants
Who
are you?
for? And are the hydrants
I'd be
for the
voting
current
against it.
projects that are, the housing projects that are currently approved and being built, are they in here?
So he includes the cost of the hydrants that he believes will be operational within that year.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hayes had a comment.
Yeah, I would say let's, I'm gonna be voting against the $10,000 increase, and I would say, if you wanna withdraw, that's fine. And let's just wait for more information and just,
That's where I'm at.
vote on this later.
And for the record, I think I would vote no on the 10,000 because I think the worst case is actually 6 months, not 12. But I don't disagree in philosophy. We're going worst case, I just don't think worst case is 12 months.
All right. All those,
Any hint you want to say the magic words?
Yeah,
all those in
no,
favor?
actually, I'll amend the motion.
Okay,
We're talking about 1 quarter, right? So what's a quarter of 10,320
2,500, last quarter?
plus some?
Just go round numbers.
So I'll amend the motion to 28,
2580 would be the quarterly.
Second,
Yeah, but it might come up a little bit earlier. So I'm gonna go 2820.
2820. All right, motion to amend the motion to increase for 4220 hydrants, by 2820 by Mr. Bork, seconded by Ms. Douglas. Any continued discussion?
28,000, can we?
2,800.
Okay. Make sure.
2,820.
Everybody gets a hydrant.
Any more discussion? Those in favor to amend the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 710. Any continued discussion? All right. Motion to increase 4220.90 hydrants by $2,820. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 6-3.
5-3.
5-3-0. I'm going to keep doing that. All right. Carries 5-3-0. All right. Moving on to 4411 mosquito districts. 4411.20. Anything with the mosquito budget? I believe that is pretty much all contract, right? Anything?
keep up the good work.
Moving on to 4414.10 animal control.
Vote there.
That, I believe that's the one that we took, is down to 0. Is that correct?
So is that line item gonna be going away?
Yep.
That whole,
Okay. On to 4415, health agencies.
We don't have any information yet.
that's the,
That's
warrant
warrant,
article.
that's a warrant
Yep.
article.
And that still has not been looked at by any committees or anything yet either.
No, but I did show you put in the requests, which have gone up.
The requests have gone up since last year or since we last,
Since,
spoke about it.
from what was funded.
And what the county is paying. is-
And we did check that all of these have no, county portion. The only one that did was, Meals on Wheels, and that is the very special population that is not figured into the calculation they give us.
Thank you.
And he actually came over and, so when we asked the question, he came over with some really good, programs that we're going to look more into and try to figure out how we can put them in. We do have some Litchfield residents that, are shut in.
Anything else on health agencies? All right, next up is 4445, vendor payments.
I feel like this is underfunded.
the trust fund though, it needs to be a warrant article.
So there's the trust, but there's been a lot of discussion throughout the state. And you're right, the need is way more, especially in other communities besides ours. It's a terrible conversation.
Do you have any motions?
No.
To add to that? All right. All right, last one, 4583, patriotic.
I'll make a motion to reduce that line item bottom line by $40.
I will second for
second?
discussion.
Right.
It's the same discussion as always.
Well, I know, I'm not supporting it, but I'd like you to have, I don't mind.
Have to be consistent, you know what?
Wave the red, white, and blue. I mean,
I will donate the $40. I have to be consistent in terms of everybody has to tighten their belt. And maybe it's, you know what, when we buy the flags, you ask for a volume discount, and that gets you the $40, but I can't pick and choose which ones. I won't cut the ones that we can't because it's contractually obligated, there's nothing I can do there, but
I appreciate the consistency. And that you're being even across the board, I appreciate that. I'm not supporting this one, but I appreciate the
Buy a
consistency.
few less flags.
So, are these like, when flag poles and monuments and things are installed, that's coming from here, those replacements? Is
well,
that,
the
is that right?
veterans.
The veterans
No,
do the,
yeah, the veterans do the flags on the poles. So this is
The
your Memorial Day
replacing them too?
program, it's, the,
Wreaths.
the brass, yeah, the wreaths on town, the old town hall, the library, the river that they do in memory of, Mr. Hayes has been involved in that in the past, I believe, right? The laying of the wreaths, for those that served. The holders in the cemeteries for the flags for the veterans, you know, things like that.
Okay, and these flags out front, is that also from
No,
here,
that's,
or-
No,
no, that's
that's-
us,
no.
that's
That's
the
just
town.
general, some
That's-
sort of
yeah,
general
that's the
flag,
town,
okay.
yeah.
Any other discussion?
give me just one more second, I was just trying to take a look and see, I mean,
What we've spent?
so far, the spend current year, $1,329 against a $2,000 budget.
It has been consistently, besides the Purple Heart signs, it was 1,500, 1,700 the years before that.
And they still have Veterans Day coming up.
I don't think $40 is gonna makes or breaks the tax cap, so. I applaud the consistency.
Madam Chair, I'll call the question.
All right,
Thank you.
every little bit, right? Motion, to reduce line 4583 patriotic purposes by $40. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
You just vote against your own.
I did.
I like it.
And-
Classy move.
I have to bring it up, but I can then
Fair, it's fair.
choose the way that I want.
All right, motion fails 2-6-0. All right. Anything else? And that is all that we have on our voting schedule tonight.
See a 9 o'clock end time in our future.
To find my agenda again. Okay. All right,
Get a few more out of the way.
we've gotten through our voting, so we can move on to general updates from the town.
Do you wanna do some more? We have time.
Well, I think
Is-
Fit some in, make our week next week easier?
Yeah, do 3 more maybe.
So,
Problem is, I don't have my prep
Some
done.
easy ones?
I acted like a college student and just got
I
this
said we
week
do on
taken care
schedule,
of.
keep on schedule.
I think we need to keep on schedule because I don't know what,
well, that,
Mr. Sun might have some ideas too.
or if
of-
somebody was
be-
not able to make
That's
today but wanted to come next
94,000
week to address
and
any of the items that we then
are-
discussed.
Yeah, like I think we need to stick to the agenda.
Push the meeting longer next week too, if somebody comes in and wants to discuss our cuts.
But you don't, you're not
Or
trying,
should we do 3 easy ones right now?
We'd be welcoming people to come in
I
and
don't think
discuss.
JD would mind if we got ahead of the game a
we
Advertising.
little.
can stop now.
insurance,
Yeah.
advertising, debt,
That
and
was-
street lighting.
Mr. Taylor, are we
Street lighting's
correct?
an
That
easy
was
one.
about
It's a
94,000?
decrease
What was it, the cuts, you said, 94,000?
Oh, yes, let me total this up.
Sorry, I wasn't keeping track. I trust it.
Ah.
Karen has this running total.
See, that's it.
Looks like
That's about what I
94,
said.
130.
Honestly, like the big ones are
So we're
out.
at 94 cuts right now?
Yeah, 70,
Road agent.
4,000,
next week. We got
14,000,
road agent, sanitation.
2820, 400,
Yep, reevaluation.
6550, and 2,000.
And the 4,000
We got
failed.
zoning, general government
4,000
buildings,
failed?
planning,
Yeah, it was full.
personnel, legal.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Which one?
This
No,
was
the
support.
1940
190.
failed.
Yeah.
And then I'm sorry, there multiple people
4,000
talking.
did
Did you
fail.
get the hydrant increase though? By 2820, was that factored into
Oh,
your?
yeah, and that was a
Yeah.
plus 2820,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, what,
That was a
4,000?
plus.
We got
Yeah, what
about
4,000?
next week too.
I have it under police support.
No, that failed.
That
Oh,
failed.
that failed?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
14,000 though from fire passed.
Yep, I have that one.
Is, did
400.
it?
400 from,
The police support failed.
Yeah, I have it at about 90, because you got a 70, a 14, and a 6,
and then
and a 2. But then you had the 2 increase on hydrants, so yeah,
400.
we got 90 so far.
All right, so, moving on to general updates.
9130.
Town business. So we have total reductions tonight were 90,000,
130.
$130.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good start, I would say. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, especially. Moving
Pray
on
for me
to
next week when the public shows up.
General updates.
Please.
Business general update, here we go.
Maybe outside of it.
We're gonna start working on the warrant articles, we'll have them probably starting next week. I know we're gonna get into Parks and Rec next week, but there was no change from the last year's budget. The only monies that were different on that was the $8,000 that was voted in at deliberative last year. So, that's at 92,000.
Can I ask one question on that, Mr.
Yes,
Leary? Because
please.
last year at deliberative, there was a specific project that needed to be done. When we asked about what, okay, so what's the project this year?
What project was that?
That was the bathrooms in Talent, sorry. The bathrooms in Talent
Mhm.
were gonna be repaired, fixed, renovated, whatever you wanna call it.
Which they have been doing, but
Yeah, and that's fine. So that got taken care of. But now all of a sudden we have a flat budget with that extra project that get added into deliberative. But when I asked in terms of, okay, so what's the project this year that's going to be for, it was, well, we don't know yet. Like, if there's not an earmarked project for that increase that was included in deliberative, then is the money, I just get concerned that then it's just going to kind of be part of the slush.
We'll ask Mr. Weber and Mr. Ames to
Okay.
get an answer for you for that one. But I know they talked about some projects that they were working on, right?
Yeah.
They want to
so
redo the bathrooms, right? I think was
They
one
were
of them.
doing that
Right,
last year.
so the old
Right.
kitchen, on the left-hand side has some sinks and piping and drainage. We had a plumber come. The plumber suggests, because the pipes go underneath the stage into the bathrooms from that kitchen and from the hot water heater, the plumber suggests we move the hot water heater to the office area over the bathrooms, take out the pipes underneath the stage that constantly cause a problem because they freeze or they crack and you can't get to them and they're not weathered properly, and also take out the old sink and the plumbing in that old kitchen area, because the more you leave that sitting without any use is the bacteria and the harmful agents that.
So I guess I'll ask the same thing I ask every year. Is there a reason why users of that facility, such as basketball and pickleball, that do have surpluses and reserves, can't pitch in and help fund those things to get that building to last a few years longer, instead of always going to the town for it? I mean, I just look at it in terms of when I first came to this town, soccer used to pay for, porta potties at the different places. They paid for trash removal and things like that. And we've just moved away from that. And I just think that, fair use is that they use these facilities. They put a lot of wear and tear on these facilities. I don't think it's too much to ask every once in a while to say, hey, there's a project. Can you, between three organizations, I mean, softball uses it quite heavily as well. Between those three organizations, why can't they help pitch in to extend the life of a building that they heavily use? That's all.
My understanding is they have,
They do
especially the
fundraisers.
Pickleball Association
Yeah,
has
pickleball does a
done
lot.
quite a bit, even too with the new outdoor courts. So my understanding is they do. This was a project that when I first started, came and we got a quote and had them research it. So I think it's something that really should be done just for the safety of the building, but
Yeah, if you can get the details from Mr. Ames or Mr. Weber as to the cost for that particular project, if that's what's gonna be on the agenda for this year, great.
Okay.
Keep in mind too, that project is not something that just came up. I mean, it's
It's been
an
there for a
old
while.
building, it needs to be, so you can't necessarily say, well, pickleball should be, we should hold them responsible in softball and soccer and the rest of them. I mean, it's something that, it's not like, a broken sink and like, hey, we need a sink, so, maybe the organizations can kick in. I think this is a little bit more, a larger project than
I
something.
mean, those organizations tend to have a decent amount of cash on hand.
Does rec have
But
a
it's
trust
a
fund?
town building too, and you're talking about the kids that are using it, and, their parents pay a lot of money in taxes to this town. So, I can't see asking them to kick in more money than.
Right, it's
No,
not,
If they're asking for something crazy, then we could say, no, that's not worthy, but, what they're doing is just basic maintenance,
it's all town residents.
yeah.
Can we have a comedy night to raise money for repairs
We
to
should.
Dara,
We should,
You know what I
comedy
mean?
nights are fun.
right?
and no, but there is discussion.
I'll bring that up to them too.
I heard you.
Raise money, raise money to replace the floors, right?
Yeah, sell cupcakes.
How they put the first, playground in, right? They had a massive fundraiser. From what I understand, that
The
previous-
fundraiser will do a good job.
Absolutely. People, a lot of the time, people are happy to support those things when they know that the money's
Absolutely.
going directly to
Yep.
a certain cause.
I think that's a great thing to do for that public.
I'm glad I thought of it.
Totally.
Anything else for updates from the town? All right.
Town trick or treat, October 31st from 6 to 8. And then the Lions Club is also doing something here for trick or treat. They call it something.
Trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat, there you go.
6 to 8.
Yeah, 6 to 8 also here, so get out and enjoy your community, folks. Other than that, there's really not much.
All right, next up is review of expenditures. Did anyone have any questions?
I think we did enough of that tonight.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to school, general updates. Mr. Bennett?
I was not able to attend yesterday's board meeting due to a work conflict. However, I did watch the meeting earlier today, so I have a couple of updates to share. One, I did send the October 18th Business Administrator report with the committee that was sent out earlier this afternoon, so you should have that. At the meeting, or during the meeting, it was mentioned that, in fact, NHSBA, New Hampshire School Board Association, came in to present to the board yesterday to start our meeting, and we're in process now of the superintendent search. We're gonna be contracting out with NHSBA to support us, which is the first time we're using an agency to support us in that type of evaluation. That does cost money. That wasn't in our budget, but we feel like that's the right thing to do, right? And we'll see. Our timeline for having a superintendent identified and hopefully on board is the January, February timeline, so about a 4-month process, give or take, is kind of our plan. Budget season. The board has not received the budget. I don't have any transparency into the budget at this moment. However, it was shared last night by Business Administrator Totten that it does remain on track for delivery to the Budget Committee next Thursday, October 26th, which was the plan. It will be draft. The board will still be reviewing. The board will not have made any motions by the time you receive the budget, right? So similar to the town where you receive it in a Google Sheet, right? It will be very much a document that the board will need to deliberate and make adjustments to. So it will need to be living and breathing as we go through it. Joint budget review sessions are planned for November 2nd and November 7th, like the last several years. And then the board approved last night having an off-cycle school board meeting. Our next school board meeting is on November 1st. We will also be meeting on November 8th, so there'll be a lot of meetings in the coming weeks. And we felt that was important because the school has a month or 6 weeks to prepare their budgets, right? The budget committee will have the budget for 4 weeks or so to deliberate and make reductions. The board will have 1 week, which felt off to the board. And so they added a secondary meeting on November 8th, so we have more time to have conversations as a board and make motions if we so choose.
Okay,
Okay.
so
So for the budget committee, draft budget, October 26th is the plan. Joint budget review sessions on November 2nd and 7th. The board will start reviewing and making motions on that budget on November 8th, and then the following week on the November 15th.
so there won't be any motions at the joint sessions, they're just the presentation?
They're just the presentations.
Okay.
Yep.
Just a note, I will not be there on the 7th. It's my wife's birthday, and she's way cuter than any of you folks.
I take offense to that.
You are a handsomely rugged guy. I'm sorry. She's way warmer than you.
Have we seen the enrollment projections or the first Friday numbers yet from the school?
Yeah, in fact, that was shared with you at our last, the
Okay.
last meeting. So that, if you need that again, we can certainly circulate that, but that was shared.
It's probably buried in a link in some document that,
So I think the other thing that for budget committee awareness is this is a contract year for first student or transportation services. If you have not heard, if you did not listen to yesterday's meeting, I will break the bad news to you that the contract is significantly increased, significantly. So what we're paying right now per bus is $371.76. Right, that's contractual, 5-year contract. It's been a 3% per year increase year over year. So our current rate is $371.76. That means, as a district, 9 buses, we're paying just over $600,000 a year for transportation services. Next year, year one, is a 19.75% increase, and then 6.5% increase every year thereafter, which takes our total from 600,000 to 930,000 at the end of 5 years. Significant.
So is the board exploring any opportunities or options to try to reduce that impact?
So there was discussion last year about going from 9 to 8 in a model that it was in the business administrator report that you have access to. There's a 9 model and an 8 model, so I think that will probably be a discussion. Not sure where we're gonna land on that. At the end of the day, even with 8 buses, we're going from 600,000 to 825,000.
I was thinking more of considering what our legal obligations are for transportation, if there was an opportunity to offset the expense with a limited revenue opportunity, because not everybody provides free busing for, because I think legally it's what, K through 8 is what we're obligated to provide for?
I'd have to go back.
I don't think we're legally obligated to provide it for 9 through 12.
That's correct.
So, is there, I mean, it stinks, and I get that, but we charge people who drive in the parking lot, and park in the parking lot, and the only cost for that is like the $2 sticker.
Still gonna need the same amount of buses.
Yeah, you're still gonna need the same amount of buses.
Okay, but if I bring in 15, 20, at least we can tell the taxpayers on a limited income who just saw a massive tax increase and are anticipating another one, that we've at least done something to try to ease the burden. That we're all in it together.
Well, if you eliminate high school students, you're not eliminating anything. You're still using the
That's
same
right.
amount of buses.
That's right, Brian. Yeah, I
Talking
agree.
about revenue side.
Yeah, revenue will offset.
Any thought of?
Sell bus,
Charging.
Bus company?
sell
They
bus
used to.
tickets.
They used to.
The question that comes up, right, the question is who
Yeah.
and what other companies? I
Yeah.
mean, Litchfield has the benefit of being in the middle of 2 areas of our state that have bus services. There's many other districts that don't have choice,
Right.
right? And there are other choices out there. They are more expensive than what First Student has proposed.
So you've looked at that.
The average rate now for a bus is in the 5s. We're paying $371, right? And that's because, and it was explained last night, that's because the average bus driver salary now is approaching $30. They've now offer benefits, which they've never offered to attract drivers. You know, there's a number of other factors that play into their calculations, so significant increases on the First Student side.
So you've done your research, this is the best deal.
This is the best deal. We've been using this bus transportation company for 25 years, I believe they said. Close proximity. There are grant opportunities for electric buses.
Don't say that.
Yeah, I mean, look,
But
it's,
just think about that for a second. Like, really think about electric buses in the winter in New England on long bus rides.
So
Where's
they-
the sucker recharging?
it was reported that they, First Student, big company, right? They have operations in Canada and many other
How many of
places.
them are in New Hampshire?
Well, they operate in cold weather and they are reporting that they're very effective, so.
Sure, in cities. They have to get from the city to here. We're gonna have,
Uh,
hi, I'm sorry, my bus
I don't
broke
think
down
it's
along
worth debating this
Albuquerque.
at this point, right? It's an idea.
And Kira,
Just
just
bike
so you know,
Right? But they're almost there. They're almost there. I can see it.
there are a lot of EV vehicles just in this town alone that run in the winter.
Yeah. And they charge overnight and don't have to go too far. They don't get stuck going from Nashua to here.
Well, the
running
idea is
4
that
You know,
routes.
they go to Boston and back and.
But these buses, and that would be a model change, right? These buses, and Superintendent Jetty reported this, these buses would be actually housed in Litchfield at the middle school using the solar grid.
That's not up yet.
Buses aren't here yet.
Oh.
So,
Well, at least we'd be,
on a
we're committing
different
to middle school, so that's good.
has the school board started to discuss in terms of how they can absorb this particular hit?
No,
No.
there have been no budget discussions as of yet.
Because you haven't seen the
I haven't even seen the
budget yet,
budget.
right? Okay,
I haven't even seen it. I'll see it with you next week.
all right.
I'll
Anything,
defer to you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Review of expenditures for the school. I didn't get a chance to look at that report from last night. I
No, I
don't know if
haven't
anyone
either.
else has, but.
No.
All right, member input, new business, school facilities. Anything
They
from
didn't
school
meet.
facilities? They haven't met? Okay. CIP?
So we
Capital
met, they met, working through the chart, confirm the prioritization and the dollar numbers, cause some of them changed significantly. Some got pushed out a couple, like a year or two versus, you know, so there were adjustments being made. There's a meeting coming up, was it the 6th? Then
November
they'll
6th.
notice for the public hearing with the intention of having that 2 weeks after that?
Yes,
At some
at
point.
the planning board, yeah.
Yep, with the, hopefully planning that there will be enough time for warrant articles to be, that are coming associated with this.
There will be. We're gonna be good.
Alright,
And the intention is that it will go to the Board of Selectmen on November 27th.
one of the big things of note, and one of the things that I'm not psyched about, is how like the police cruisers have been put into the annual CIP, because I personally think they should be in the budget, but CIP has them, or they're currently on a 212 in the upcoming CIP plan. And then discussion of various facilities and other items, so.
Is there any reason why, is the CIP supposed to not include budgetary items? Because when you talk about having a schedule for like vehicle replacement, and if it's not in the CIP, where does that go? Is that just a separate document or
So,
like as a
Well,
planning tool?
this isn't even
where,
fully
I
encompassed.
don't believe there are any vehicles that are in the operation budget that weren't submitted to CIP. They should be submitted to CIP.
So, yeah, so like ideally, right, police vehicles are in the budget. There's no reason why those can't also be on the CIP, so we just are
They are.
understanding that cost.
Sure, if that's your understanding of it, sure. So, but like,
That was
I'm,
my question, I'm not sure
but
what it should be.
but it's inconsistent, right? Where's my fire truck that had to be replaced in a number of years, and the other
Exactly.
large stuff?
That's what I'm
So to
asking.
me, it's inconsistent, so
Well,
the
it's not
reality.
there if the fire department didn't submit it through the CIP.
Well, that's fine, but I'm just saying, it's not, if we're gonna rely on this as an all-encompassing document, it's not. So
Well, then that's a department problem.
it's actually a town and taxpayer problem,
It's a
but
department
yes,
problem, yeah.
but it's,
When you
like,
originally
it's very,
started,
to me, they used to be in the operating
So you still
budget, and I
have
believe
one.
that's where it should be. Like,
Wasn't presented by the
we
fire
can
department.
consider like how it would be,
The
like
dollars.
annualized cost, which is something that's been discussed. But
So it's still in there as a placeholder.
I'm not a fan of where it is on a personal level, so that's my,
Right.
Made
just
that very
statement.
clear about 10 times
So
already.
is the,
You got it.
so can the capital improvement
You gotta
committee,
listen sometimes.
saying it.
is there any reason why the capital improvement committee can't have two lists? Like one of what should be in the budget and what should be
It's up to them
warrant?
how to do,
Or
again,
has that been discussed?
I would hope that I would hope that the budget, or the departments are talking about what is the plan going forward for replacing major expenses, right? Fire trucks, these other items, so it seems right now it's there's a couple of highway department vehicles, but there's a lot others out there, and so,
So why can't the CIP ask for that? Like,
I'm just
'cause
saying my concern is we're relying on this too heavily, and it's not all encompassing.
that, right, and the CIP is a good place for all the departments and everybody to come together and
Sure.
talk about these things. So,
I guess
so
it
if
depends
it's
on what
not
you
the
feel it
CIP
is.
committee that has that
But is
list,
it a
both
capital improvement
school-
at that point or maintenance, I guess is what it comes down to. If we're routinely replacing vehicles, like say cruisers, on a regular routine basis, it's not really capital improvement, it's maintenance.
Okay, all right.
So whereas.
So that, yeah, that was like, cause we know that we need to capture this and watch it but I haven't heard
everything else
anything to
on
say
here-
where that
Everything
should go.
else on here is a major capital expense, like upgrading a playground, a new school. It's not the same category as replacing a cruiser every 5 years.
Okay,
To me, anyway, that's my interpretation of it.
so then,
But it's
Is that a
here,
budget commit-
no,
like,
it's
should we be-
here because it's a tax cap issue. It's not here because that's where it should be. It's because we have a tax cap issue. So that's my personal beef with it, but it is what it is. They're gonna have,
The board can make changes. I mean, they're the
They're-
ultimate.
the,
Haven't seen it, so.
well, no, but
So
it's
can the,
also not in our operating budget. So it has to be captured somewhere. But ultimately, there will be another meeting on November 6th. They will finalize how they're going to present it. It will go before the planning committee. It will go before the board of selectmen. It will be noticed.
In case you're keeping track, November 6th is CIP, November 7th is a joint budget session, November 8th is a budget committee meeting, is a school board meeting, and November 9th is a budget committee meeting.
Oh, goodness
And those are
gracious.
all me.
So you take a
So-
week off, a vacation week.
how about, so maybe it's after budget season, can the budget, can we see, cause I know Mr. Taylor's asked this before, and maybe I missed it, maybe I just don't recall seeing it. From both the town and the school, can we see if it's not a capital improvement list, those major maintenance lists? Should that fall under the budget committee to, cause we're seeing a lot more information from both sides, both the town and the schools, like these quarterly comparison reports and things like that, so is that something that we could see as?
Just while we wrap, I mean, I see Karen, you know,
the
is there
ma-
anything else that we
Yeah,
need?
do we need them?
The
Okay.
major maintenance list, so
I'm just looking for a place to capture
So
these.
I used to have,
these things
like
that
my
we
maintenance, when I was working.
need to plan
there,
for.
Our operations and maintenance manuals would have like the schedule, everything is
yeah,
replaced on certain
deferred
years.
maintenance.
Well, it's like, I know my boiler's good for so long, I know this is good for so long, I know this is good,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm gonna have to replace it in 16 years, 1/16 of the cost, here's my schedule, in 2025, 2029, this is what I'm gonna have to replace. I don't know that there's a comprehensive list of our major boilers, air handling units, all this other stuff that we know is due at some
Septic.
point. Septic, sure.
Oh,
Or is it one of those, oh crud, we need to replace something, which I feel we're very reactionary and not too proactive. So I think this is a good start, but my vision of it would be to capture all of the costs, not just the major capital I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how you would make that look, I don't know if there's a schedule being maintained that, we just put it in a new
I
fire
think Ms. Kleiner
department.
has some thoughts.
No, nothing?
I don't think there is. I mean, I think there should be, to your point, I think there absolutely should be.
Cause we know we
You know,
just put it in a
most
fire department.
communities have it, but there's a funding mechanism. So what's our funding mechanism with the tax cap?
Well, I mean, I would think that the
There
people,
is
the
none.
users of whoever maintains the fire department should know that I have these 6 major pieces of equipment, and this one's 10 years, this one's 5 years, this one's 7 years, and somebody should be maintaining it and keeping track of that, where it is in the life cycle of it.
But also to her point, who's gonna fund it?
Right.
I've done enough budget meetings and sat in enough of them where someone said, well, the motor is only last 15 years and so it's really due to replace. And the first question's asked, is it broken? Can it last another year? Can we push it out? That's what we do.
And that is why we're very reactive and we pay more.
But that's
we-
what we do, Karen.
And
and that's-
I've never been a proponent of that, I've always been, let's figure out what it is.
So I'm wondering
Great.
if we can capture a list like that and then work towards those
I-
trust funds.
I've been very clear that
Increases.
I know that the first year is gonna stink, cause you're paying for the catch up, while also trying to create the fund. But if we never start, we're making a lot of progress nowhere.
So you mean similar to what the school did, the middle school that you balked at, like the entire process through?
The
So-
one that I was completely right,
All
that the
right,
budget
we
was
don't
wrong.
need to get into that
But it's
again, but
Fixed.
what I would like to, what I'm hoping to see is some sort of list like that, so then we can begin the talks towards trust funds to save for them instead of lease or leasing.
Oh, I've
or
gotta
the-
pay my, our
I'm
time.
on the same page as you, and what I'm saying, what's the first step to get there? The
Madam
first step
Chairman,
is to list them
I
out.
do want to take just a moment of time
Yeah.
to do a plug for the school district, if that would be okay.
Absolutely.
So also last night, not budget related, yes, but not budget specifically related. It was reported that we are in a really significant state of hiring professionals to support our schools. We had a resignation within the custodial staff, which has really put the school district in a tough spot in terms of being able to keep with the upkeep of the buildings. As of October 18th, as of yesterday, I'd like to read the list of positions so everyone has awareness. At Griffin Memorial, we have 13 para positions open. We have 2 kindergarten professional positions open. We have a custodian second shift and a lunch monitor open. At Litchfield Middle School, we have 13 paras open. We have a custodian second shift part-time, a custodian second shift full-time, a coach for girls basketball, a food service tech, lunch monitor, long-term subs for grade 5, grade 6, and grade 8. Grades 5 and 6 are in language arts, grade 8 is in math. Campbell High School, we have custodian second shift, 3 positions available. We have a para that's open. We have a coach for winter track, a coach for spring track, coach for assistant varsity baseball coach, coach assistant JV baseball coach, teacher in science, as well as food service tech and district-wide. We're in dire need for grounds maintenance as well as substitutes. There's a number of positions that we are not able to fill.
The baseball assistant coaches, are they paid positions now? Because they never were.
Yeah, I think they have
They
been.
never were. Not when I coached.
That's a long time ago.
You're dating
Their
Up
stipend.
until 2011. Up until 2011.
I'm recalling from what I watched on video last night, but it was mentioned there's been a significant increase in the students that are wanting to play baseball. 28 kids or so.
Oh, wow.
We had
Multiple.
three coaches on the staff. There was the head coach and 2 assistants.
If you're interested.
I did my time. We got titles.
So as far as the ground maintenance part, is there talk about
Oh, yeah.
possibly
Yeah,
just
sure.
contracting that out then?
There's been no discussions on
If you,
that,
if you can't find staff for it, then
Is that a year?
but that comes at a significant cost.
Is that a year?
compared to New Hampshire retirement, the health insurance benefits and salary, I mean, I think it's at least worth exploration. I mean, we know of a group that handles the rec fields, that understand how to maintain sport fields.
I think you can get volunteers to do the assistant coaching. We always did it.
Yeah.
I guess we'd have to see. I haven't seen that on the rec baseball side.
They know where the ruts are in the holes.
Okay, moving on to Energy Committee. And that is Mr. Sun, so we will maybe have an update. Although I have seen a splash page on the town website for a survey that the Energy Committee is doing for, it's what types of energy,
Cheap.
you'd like to see on your energy bill, and also what have you been doing, trying to think of what questions were on there. What have you done to your own house to reduce, your energy costs? So if you have a moment, it takes like 5 minutes, go on the town website and fill out that survey. Because I believe that will be going to warrant. There will be a proposal on the warrant in March. If anything
Community
else to add.
power must go to warrant and be approved by the residents, yes. And the survey's only out there until the end of November. The committee has a meeting October 24th. And the survey is to help set the rates. So you could have a default rate, which is lowest cost.
That's what I.
Then you have
Fill out survey.
another cost with maybe 10% renewables, because you are interested in renewable energies, and so you're willing to pay, 10%. So there's several different costs that'll be associated, and they're trying to get the community's feel, so it is important.
And I don't know, I've watched a couple of those meetings and they are actually pretty interesting, and I have to Google what they're talking about
They have a
because of
great
some of the
committee.
questions
Great committee.
that are asked.
All I
So-
know is when I went to look for my rates, and I see all these other towns at rates lower than what I would have to commit to. I'm like, come on!
Yep.
So
So
I'm
that's what
hoping.
they're trying to
I'm
address.
hoping. I'd like to see
All right.
Litchfield on that list. I'm just saying.
Anything else for new business? Nope. All right, I will open it up for public input, and there's still no one here, so I will close public input and entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, man,
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. Taylor, second by Ms. Douglas. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 800. Our next committee meeting is Thursday, October 26th. And everyone can have a good night. Thank you for joining us. All right.
Thank you.